I was seeing a gentleman in Boulder, very, very wealthy man, the kind of guy that has his own plane. And he looks at me and he says, "Tusek, great job for building cloud medical. It's the best that money can buy." And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Thank you for the compliment. And the very next patient was a 23-year-old kid who was trying to get a startup off the ground. He had about 2 nickels to rub together. Yeah. And he said, "Dr. T, thank you so much for building cloud medical. It's the only thing I can afford." All of the institutions, industries, and infrastructures are beginning to show there are cracks and are beginning to collapse. Whether it's education, whether it's agriculture, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's the healthcare industry itself, all of the pillars of society are now beginning to really not work. I think most people who go to work for the big hospital systems and, the insurance-based practices are pigeonholed into a very, very minimalistic approach to even just on the biology side, never mind those other 3 quadrants. And so there's so much that we can do in primary care with needle-based therapies, for instance. We do PRP injections at Cloud. The going rate in our community for those is close to $1,000 a shot. And we bought the kits, we bought the centrifuges, we got it all. And we're like, we can do it for $300. A fraction of the cost that most clinicians charge because of our recurrent revenue model.
Welcome to the Freedom RX podcast. I'm your host, Seth Conger, and with me today is a friend, a client, and my personal physician, Dr. David Tusek, the founder and CEO of Cloud Medical. Dr. T, as I will refer to you because you're my physician and I just feel uncomfortable calling you by your first name. How you doing today?
It's always good to be with you, man. It's a pleasure to be in conversation. You can call me Dave anytime you're ready. And I'm just excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, we've attempted this before. We've had many long-lasting conversations behind closed doors, and I'm really excited to be having this today and sharing your brilliance with the world, from a personal level, from a professional level, from the model that you've created, and really, really sharing that. And so I'm quite excited about the conversation we get to have today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I want to start with, I think a really punctual term that you use quite often that I think is funny in its own light, but also very, very powerful when we think about the models of medicine. Mm-hmm. And you talk about giving very, very high quality primary care at the cost of a cup of coffee per day. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to your patients and the greater environment of primary care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the essence of that question comes down to value. Mm-hmm. And, really thinking deeply and trying to be this is what I've just very humbly tried to do in my career, is to try to be as intellectually honest and intellectually precise about what it means to provide a highest possible value primary care offering that every man and every woman can afford, that's affordable to all, really, quite frankly. I can share a story that was so poignant for me, that kind of encapsulated when I felt really for the first time that I was on the right track, that there was a there in what we were trying to accomplish. And I was seeing a gentleman in Boulder, very, very wealthy man, the kind of guy that has his own plane. And he looks at me and he says, "Tusek, great job for building cloud medical. It's the best that money can buy." And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Thank you for the compliment. And the very next patient was a 23-year-old kid who was trying to get a startup off the ground. He had about 2 nickels to rub together. Yeah. And he said, Dr. T, thank you so much for building Cloud Medical. It's the only thing I can afford. And for those two things to happen, literally within the same hour, was pretty special. And I feel that it's just been a long, beautiful, winding journey of discovery, of trying this, trying that, pivoting to identify, first of all, like, well, what's in the way of that? What are the things that are in obstruction to the thing that everybody really, really wants, which is a reclamation, a restoration, a rebirth of the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship. Mm-hmm. That's what everybody wants. Yeah. And that has become degraded, diluted, chipped away at from all of the various forces at play. And so can we be very precise about what's in the way of that? And then can we remove those barriers? And then can we identify the things that are in support of that and really fortify those things? And so that, in a sort of meandering way, is the answer to your question of what we've tried to do. And, fundamentally that came down to saying, all right, what's the value proposition in terms of dollars and cents? What would be a reasonable price point to ask? And that price point is around a per member per month fee of about $100, give or take. And if you look at, if you look at our current membership costs and look at families and businesses and spouses and kids and all of that, we're around that price point. And then saying, all right, at that price point, what's the most that we could offer? And what's the most that we can offer in service to that vectoring across a whole host of goals? And the first goal is availability. So it's like, we're here when you need us. If you have a same day urgency, we are here for you that day. Yep. The second thing would be, we're not going to nickel and dime you to death. There's not co-pays and barriers to access and barriers to care. The third would be, it's sort of independent of time and space. Doesn't matter what time it is or where you happen to be on the planet. You could be in Boulder, Bali, Barcelona. It doesn't really matter. We've got you, for the most part, through, all of the cool channels that are available. Text messaging, which is now secure, video conferencing, even our cell phone cameras have high definition lenses, and we can diagnose a lot of amazingly, the tools are good enough to where they're sort of medical grade. Yeah. And then we can explore all of the other things that are in service of not just the treatment of disease, disorder, and dysfunction, which of course will always be a big part of the healthcare system. It's what we do in pediatrics, gynecology, adult medicine, urgent care, but really is increasingly in service of salutogenesis, which is, what does it mean to be healthy? What does it mean to heal? On what levels do we tend to need to heal as humans? And so how do we bring all of this to bear at this most economical price point?
Yeah. So we talk about primary care. I would love your definition of what fits into the box of primary care. And then we can talk about how you do that differently.
Yeah. I mean, on a conventional level, it's those things that I just mentioned. It's the care of conditions and ailments related to pediatrics, gynecology, adult medicine, and then the urgent matters that are non-life threatening, but still need attention in the same day. But, to my mind, it's a deeper question. Like, well, what is primary to health? Like, what are the fundamental, elemental, foundational things that we all need to know about what our whole human nature requires for thriving, flourishing, and well-being? And we haven't done a very good job of even defining that. Right. You know, I mean, going back to the 60s, we have the luminary Aaron Antonovsky, who coined the term salutogenesis in contrast to pathogenesis, which is the framework that the entire orthodox, conventional, mainstream, Main Street healthcare system is built upon. Right. Like, we only have language, and we only have data, and we only have inquiry around disease and the treatment of it. We have very little kind of a conceptual framework of those things, those capacities, those innate intrinsic capacities that we all have as humans that give us the potentiality to actually do true and real and deep and meaningful healing from within. And we certainly don't have a worldview or a curriculum or a rubric to help us identify all of the methodologies, the pragmatic, practical, easy, cost-effective, don't take a lot of time, don't take a lot of sophistication, pragmatic practices to support, to nurture, to catalyze those innate capacities. And so for me, primary care is a deep inquiry into, all right, how can we be really good at the basic stuff, the treatment of strep throat, urinary tract infections, high blood pressure, what have you, while also really speaking to and thinking deeply about that other half of the coin. It's like it's a two-sided coin. Sure. And we've been acting for the last 100 years as though it's just got one side. It's like, oh, look, there's two sides to this coin. Pathogenesis is important. We have to understand how these things unfold within our bodies, how ailments and disorders and disease arises, and how we can treat it with the brilliant methodologies that the modern medical system affords us. But we got to look at the other side of the coin now, and the reasons for that need are so obvious now.
Mm-hmm. So we have insurance-based primary care, generally owned by hospital systems. We have a movement that's been going on for now almost 2 decades, direct primary care. You were at the center of the beginning of that movement. I think in 2009, you opened one of the first, if not the first, direct primary care practice in Colorado. And then there's cloud medical. And it's really hard for me to even place that inside of direct primary care. Sure, it functions within that, but there's so much happening on a doctor-patient relationship and the outcomes that the patients are achieving inside of cloud medical that it's almost hard to typecast it as a direct primary care practice. How do you, if we've defined primary care and direct primary care is primary care for cash that gives you better access, how do we separate cloud medical from that and go a little bit into that other side of the coin for me?
Maybe stepping into this question requires a context, a foundation that I would step into with. I think this is kind of where cloud medical is sort of headed, where I see this movement that's far bigger than just, our practice. I see this as a movement. I think that we are at a time when there's been no better time to be in primary care in the history that I'm aware of medicine, and certainly in my entire career. Like, this is the best time to be a primary care physician or a primary care practitioner in general, because the elements that are necessary for us to do the thing that we know is so ready to be born, which I've been calling the primary care renaissance for the longest time, for years. Like, the necessary elements to usher forward the primary care renaissance are finally here. And the basis of that is, as I said, the reclamation of the doctor-patient relationship, but getting really to the heart and the soul and the essence and the promise of what primary care has represented all along. And that we've began to term health sovereignty. And for me, this is such an important concept, because what it implies is that there is a movement towards freedom from the forces of dependency that stand to gain and profit from that manufactured dependency. Dependency on insurance, dependency on drugs, dependency on toxic food systems. And our historic opportunity to guide our patients, our communities, our profession, to stand at the forefront of a movement that celebrates that freedom, that really, really provides the wind behind the sails that are necessary to support our patients' personal individual health journeys towards that health sovereignty, to move from feeling disempowered, as I believe many people who participate in the orthodox healthcare system oftentimes are left feeling, and bring the power back to them. So that concept of health sovereignty really is the movement towards thriving and flourishing and well-being that I believe there's nothing else that we should be in service to in primary care. That's the hokey pokey. That's the holy grail, right? And so the elements that have now come into full view that we can now begin to assemble, I would identify as the four main things. The first is an economic understanding or an economic framework of alternative payment models that began as micro experiments, that began as idea labs, that began as little prototypes all around the country, and that have moved far, far beyond that now, that have demonstrated a formidable proof of concept, a proven track record of sustainability, both financially and operationally, as well as a delivery system of the kinds of things that people really want. And I think direct primary care is at the forefront of that. I think health shares also have a place at that table. And there are other alternative payment models that fit into that economic structure. The second is technological innovation. The tools that we've been waiting for our entire careers are here now. They are like, we are in Star Trek mode. And I keep saying this, and I keep feeling the feeling of awe of like, oh my gosh, like the things that we've been longing to have, clinical tools as medical practitioners. Like, if only we could see the coronary arteries in this way, it's like, well, now we can. If only we could put the person on the MRI scanner and do a full body MRI in 45 minutes, like, now we can. And certainly the technology also includes personalized wearables and sensors and things like that. But our ability to harness and capitalize AI enhanced technological tools is nothing less than revolutionary. And And we are so far along in that. The third element that I would point to is a new paradigm. So there is maybe the most overused term in the world, right? But I think it's the exact appropriate term. We are in a new paradigm. The old paradigm, we might say, is encapsulated by the worldview of the CDC circa 2023-24. A certain critical mass of Americans and citizens worldwide are seeing the myths of that paradigm being exploded, being unmasked, being seen for what they are. There are so many, but the sort of immediate example is we were taught all our lives that the enemy was fat, salt, and sunshine, and we should avoid them at all costs, right? And that's done nothing more than make us sicker and sicker and sicker, right? And so there are these powerful mythologies at play that we are now moving beyond, and certainly functional medicine is a key conceptual framework or a worldview that says, hey guys, it's not about Band-Aid medicine and a pill for every ill. It's about understanding the source cause and the root cause. It's not always about artificial and synthetic. It's also about natural. And there's all of the integrative fields, and more people are gravitating towards that. I think at the really tip of that spear is an even deeper inquiry, as I was alluding to earlier, about the nature of our innate capacities to be healthy and to heal from within. So salutogenesis is a part of that conceptual new paradigm. And here's the thing about paradigms. It doesn't require 100% of the population to get it. There is a tipping point. There's a critical mass that's much, much smaller. It's closer to 15%, right, maybe 20% of people that start to wake up and they're like, oh my God, like we've been lied to by so many of these forces of dependency. And there has to be a completely different orientation just about map making, sense making, that can inform our choice making from a completely different bird's eye view or perspective or worldview. And that's coming online in a big time way. And then the fourth is actually a legislative and policy basis of changes that, have allowed and enabled, I think, on a very historic level. And we can talk about the pros and cons of various political agendas, but on a historic level, for the first time, our federal government has gotten behind this idea of health sovereignty, has gotten behind this idea of salutogenesis, given people the power for choices that enable them to find their way through a healthcare landscape that's full of gimmicks, but it's also full of game changers. Mm-hmm. The technological application of tools that now for the first time can be paid for with pre-tax dollars. Yep. That's a very, very big deal. So those are the four things that we at Cloud Medical see as key elements to kind of move the ball down this field towards really the celebration of our patients' capacity to take charge over their own health, with us as guides, supporters, cheerleaders, navigators, but ensuring that they always feel that they're in the driver's seat. We're here to just help them calibrate the course of that health journey in service of their best interests. And we're also just very keen on understanding and identifying anything that's in the way of that, anything that's perverting that or polluting the trajectory towards their best interest. And so I really feel that we're at a time of a great awakening and this amazing, impactful, potentiated, potent opportunity to do this great project, which has to do with, we know that the current world, the old world, is not working. We don't quite yet see fully what the new world is like. So we're in this time of between worlds. Right. We're in the chrysalis mode, and we need the visionaries to step forward.
Yeah. This
is a call to action. This is a calling forth the mobilization of all of the people that have, that I've crossed paths with my career, and so many people that you and I know, so many people that are inspired to strike while the iron is hot, to say, this is our time. This is our moment in history. Yeah. The window is open. It's not a door. It's a window. And it's a window of opportunity that if we do this well, and if we do this right, and if we truly use our voices, it's not just for the sake of our profession and for the sake of our patients. This is something that's even bigger. This is for those that come after us. This is for generations ahead. And if there's anything that we can truly say, this is the best thing I can do in life, it's to be a worthy ancestor. I think these 4 elements that are literally sitting on our laps right now that we can put together in just the right way, if we do this well, we can move down that path towards becoming worthy ancestors for those that follow. And that's why I'm so inspired by this, brother.
Yeah. I think, as you mentioned, the elements have really come together at a very interesting time. Mm-hmm. We also have other technologies on our side that lend towards that and make it easier for people to understand maybe what they're going through, make them less terrified of having to go to a doctor in the first place. But there's been truly an oppression from the sick care model for so long. Mm-hmm. And as we talk, and you and I have talked quite a bit about this post sick care model, which is really a truly healthcare model. Healthcare has been a misnomer for decades, unfortunately. But what you're creating at Cloud and this movement that you were talking about is truly about health sovereignty for the individual. What keeps individuals unhealthy? Say they have now, through listening to this or through other methods, have realized, wow, there's a different way. And there's a different system I can be playing around in. Mm-hmm. But what generally keeps them unhealthy in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many levels to answer that question or ways. I mean,
we've got time.
Yeah. I mean, one way, and I've spoken about this very openly. I think that many big thinkers have defined the story of our time as the meta crisis, right? Where all of the institutions, industries, and infrastructures are beginning to show their cracks and are beginning to collapse, whether it's education, whether it's agriculture, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's the healthcare industry itself. Like, all of the pillars of society are now beginning to really not work. And so, one answer to your question is to say, well, we really need to look at it from that big of a vantage point, from that high of a bird's eye view. I think a more immediate way, strategically, is to say we actually have to define health, at least on a rudimentary basis, as whatever is in service for whole human integration, whole human thriving, whole human well-being. And we need to look at, well, what are those components? At Cloud, we have been looking for a groundwork or a foundation that's strong enough to build such a concept upon. And nothing seems to be more sturdy than the framework of integral theory. So the 4 quadrants of integral theory, Ken Wilber's work, has really defined for us those necessary quadrants, right? The 4 quadrants of life or of reality, which when they're applied to health are, number 1, our body, our relationship to our body. Number 2, our relationship to our selfhood. Number 3, our relationship to one another. And the 4th is our relationship to nature, the source of all things. And so what's in the way of our health is anything that leads to disconnections from those 4 things. When we're disconnected from our body, when we don't understand how it works, or we're confused by it, or we're pissed off by it, or we're disgusted by it, or we hate it, which is so often tragically the case, that is in the way of health. So we need a reconnection to the material part of who we are, the physiology, the biology of who we are. And again, mainstream healthcare, right? The typical med school stuff that I learned, residency, didn't give us a great map for that. And so we're building that map very earnestly. Similarly, we don't really have a great map for reconnecting to our selfhood. When we don't know who we are, what we want, and what's holding us back from that, it's very difficult to have a healthy relationship with my sense of self. We live in possibly the most polarized society ever, right? And so our interpersonal, our interbeing, our human to human connections need a lot of work and some care and sensitivity and thought. I think as part of this whole health framework has to rest there. I mean, we have so many studies, you know this, about, well, what's the single most important factor for our health? It's like our relationships, literally, like more than anything else, more than where we live or how much we make or what we eat. Like our relationships are fundamental for our health. And yet for so many of us, we would define key relationships in our lives as toxic and abusive for so many of us. And so what are the pathways to really help heal that? And then the last one is when we are disconnected from nature, from the natural world, both as in, I'm not spending enough time barefoot on the grass. I'm not spending enough time in the forest. I'm not spending enough time gazing at the stars, but also our relationship to nature on just a human pragmatic level from the perspective of, is nature just a thing that I tap for resources in an extractive way, and then I take what I want and throw away what I don't want and pollute it? Is that the cycle of our relationship with nature? Or can we move towards a relationship with nature that's based on stewardship on a societal level, right? So if we think about that, if we connect these 4 quadrants and we say we reconnect to our body so that we have the necessary vitality to do what? To understand who I am, what I want, and what's holding me back. To wake up, grow up, and clean up. So that I can do what? So that I can reconnect to other human beings without perpetuating my trauma. So that I can do what? So that we can together come together and help build the most beautiful world that our heart knows is possible, that our hearts know is possible. That's that's the dream, or that's the vision, or that's the intention. That's the inquiry. Humble, like crazy, big, huge, a little woo-woo, a little out there. But I think just saying that, if not now, when? Like, which of these elements can we dispense with and neglect and ignore? I would say you can't ignore any of them. And so can we build a primary care container, vision, infrastructure, point of view, perspective, worldview that is big enough to hold all of those? And then how do we align those things? And I actually think that like this is very, very doable. This is very, very possible. It is not a one-man show. This takes a movement. This takes a massive village. And I feel very honored. I feel very privileged to be in conversation with you, with people in the FPC community who I've sat at tables with until the wee hours of the night, right? Sharing this dream. It's like, this isn't a crazy idea that some, wild person in an unmoored way is trying to conjure up. I mean, I feel that more and more people get it. And they're like, this is literally where we need to be thinking. We need to be thinking from this perspective. And our time is now, brother.
It is. Yeah. It is. I've seen this firsthand as a patient, right? Because we had a friendly relationship for a total of one interaction prior to me becoming a patient of yours. And so I've gotten to experience cloud medical from that view, which has been fantastic. And I can share that having an intake where you go through these 4 quadrants and look at where you're uneven in these areas and what parts you may be disconnected from is a absolutely incredible way to reset immediately and restart a doctor-patient relationship in a primary care space. I in fact cannot think of a better way to set somebody up for success in that new relationship as being a member of an organization than starting from the ground level there. And I've been in the functional medicine, integrative, holistic community for now a decade and a half, and I've never seen anything like that. I've seen long intakes that are 120-minute, really diving into your timelines and all of the different areas that could possibly lead to where you're going now and what this gut dysfunction is. But no one's looking at it from truly this point of view and resetting that in the moment. But then somehow not allowing that deep conversation to curtail into a complete crushing of the capacity of the clinic, right? So you've been able to balance these things. How do I go very deep with somebody without how do I then turn that into a time issue where I then have to support them consistently, but I can actually rather empower them to be curious about the other things they can take advantage of here. And I just want to pick on that a little bit because I think you've done something different in this space. And there's the movement and there's what we can do with the primary care renaissance, but you've figured out a new way of creating that relationship with the patient that actually truly empowers them at a cost basis that is pretty unheard of in the space of cash pay medicine.
Yeah.
Was that intentional? Has that been evolving over time? Like, how do you come into that first interaction and your idea of what this patient journey is when they start with you?
Yeah. I mean, thanks for those kind words. It's definitely a work in progress. I feel like, we have a long way to go to really fully formalize that process, but 100% that's the goal and the vision and the intention. I think this is where the framework is very, very helpful. We have to have elemental conceptual understanding of what the big levers are in each of the 4 quadrants. And sometimes the low-hanging fruit or the most pressing issues and the most pressing needs are squarely in the body quadrant. Oftentimes that's where we start. And there's the 5 pillars of health of the body. And we can get into those. The goal working with those 5 pillars of the body is to have an anti-fragile body. Mm-hmm. That's the fundamental goal. Like we're driving towards that, which means it's more than fragile, obviously, mm-hmm. but it's more than resilient. Yeah. We engage with a deeper understanding of good stress. So there's a whole framework of good, bad, and ugly stress. Mm-hmm. Good stress is also called noble stress, eustress, hormetic stress, hormesis. And so how do we identify the hormetic stressors that I can consciously agree to engage? So there's a voluntary basis, call it voluntary discomfort to offset involuntary suffering in all of these dimensions across the body to support salutogenic thriving. And then the same thing happens on the interiors. When we're well enough, when we have an adequate life force, vitality, energy, understanding the body, we've dealt with the physiology, we've dealt with things like, well, let's just quickly do an inventory and an overview of too much of something bad and not enough of something good. This is where our diagnostics are amazing.
Yep.
Do we have too much of the bad stuff? Too many toxins? And toxins can be environmental. Toxins can be heavy metals, mycotoxins. Toxins can be, the number one toxin of our time is sugar. Mm-hmm. At higher levels than is good for us, sugar becomes toxic. Mm-hmm. So we do an overview of an inventory of all the things that are thwarting our thriving on a physical body biology level due to a toxicity. Then we can say, all right, but maybe there's not enough of something good, deficiency. Maybe there's a micronutrient deficiency of some kind or other things. And then we fortify those 5 pillars, which are hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. Again, with as simple to employ and as simple to implement methodologies that are kind of universally helpful. Mm-hmm. Things that have gotten outrageously complicated, we try to deeply simplify them. There's an outrageous overcomplexification of nutrition. It's like, guys, it doesn't have to be so, right? Just eat real food. Yeah. Is it a meat? Is it a nut? Is it a vegetable? Is it a fruit? Great. Eat it. That's ancestral diet. That's paleo diet. That's, all of those basic things that we can then refine on an individual basis and say, within that category of real food, as opposed to ultra processed carbohydrates and seed oils, yeah, real food, within that realm, there are still things, Seth, that aren't serving you, that are causing too much inflammation in your body for whatever reason. And maybe you are histamine or lectin or, FODMAPs intolerant in these different ways, and we can help you figure that out. That's very easy to do. Yeah. But it's really as simple as that. We can look at microbiome tests to help refine that a little bit. And we can employ intermittent fasting practices to help you become a person that can reclaim your hybrid engine status. Mm-hmm. And remember that you're not just a gas guzzler that can only use one type of fuel for energy, sugar. You can actually use fat to use for energy. So we've taken these 5 pillars of health, tried to reduce them to really fundamental elemental things that are not hard to explain and that are not hard to implement into one's life. They don't take a lot of time. They don't take a lot of money. They don't take PhD in nutrition or any kind of sophistication. They take an 8th grade level of awareness, and oftentimes doing these things actually save time and save money. For instance, not eating breakfast is a great way to save time and money. And
There's intermittent fasting.
Exactly.
There you go.
And maybe that doesn't work for 100% of people, but it probably works for 80%.
It's hard. It's hard for the nutrition people to monetize that.
It's hard.
How do we monetize intermittent fasting?
Exactly. It's hard for them to monetize anything that's salutogenic, quite frankly. And so that's our job, brother.
Yeah.
Like doctore docere means teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are we supposed to teach if not how to be healthy?
Right.
And we don't have to monetize anything. We just do that.
Right.
That's enough.
Yeah. I think the simplicity of the model is really a point that goes overlooked, right? We swing the pendulum a lot in many different areas of life. And when we move from conventional medicine to functional or integrative medicine, there is a swinging of the pendulum from this sick care, we're going to have a pill for every ill, we're going to put a Band-Aid approach on this, to we have to get to the core root cause of the core root cause of the core root cause and fix every single element of this. And sometimes there's a nice approach in the middle, which is a simplicity of, we're going to empower you with the knowledge and education to do the thing that is going to be most beneficial and supportive for your body and your mind and your relationships and everybody around you.
Yeah.
And that takes time, right? So there is a time element to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't change overnight. There are faster ways to get to things. And I always look at that cost benefit analysis. And sometimes you can throw more money at things to get them done in a faster period. And there are certainly cases, especially people with single, multiple, even, 3 chronic diseases, where it is the absolute right move to get in a very, very highly targeted program to reverse that chronic disease as quickly as possible, and then come out the other end to really learn how to support themselves.
Yeah.
You're taking a slightly different approach to that, which is an empowerment model. And typically with I would say, at least knowing many of the other members of Cloud, there is at least a health awareness level that is probably above the median for the general United States, right? It's also located in Boulder, Colorado, which is generally a healthier city and town. But I don't think it's that dissimilar as we look at it across larger populations. And so what needs to shift in that to get people to wake up in the first place to understanding that they actually do have that salutogenic power inside themselves?
On a personal level, systemic. Yeah. I was going to say, if you mean on a systemic level, we have to divorce the worst marriage in the history of humanity, which is primary care and insurance.
Right.
That marriage should have never occurred at the altar. But on a personal level, I think there is universality or near universality here. There's scalability here because human beings are the same in these foundational and fundamental levels. We're all the same in terms of what we need. And it's just a reorientation of what really matters. I think that's it. I think it's a lens calibration of what really matters. I think as we move into the future of the primary care renaissance, we're just going to get better and better and better at the integration that needs to happen of all of the shining stars in the constellation. Many of them are very lonely. They're sort of out there in the in the sky, shining on their own, but they're part of a constellation. And so, how do we bring into the primary care world? And I know that this is happening in real time, and I think it's just going to get better. really good coaching, for behavioral change to support people with accountability as they have the framework. It's like, okay, now I know what I need to do. That is unique and original. And like for the first time ever, like we have the framework. But that's a totally separate thing from saying, okay, now I'm going to escape the gravitational field, the escape velocity of the current culture, the civilizational structures of this is how I eat. This is how I move. This is how I work. This is how I sit at the desk all day. It's like we are going to have to change some of those things in a salutogenic way. And that's going to take more than a primary care physician. On the level of waking up, growing up, cleaning up, who am I? What do I want? And what's holding me back? My relationship to selfhood. That's going to take, as you know, we have part of our job, I feel like really an important part of my job, I believe, as a primary care doctor is to identify the world-class performers in all of these fields. And just like primary care is going through a paradigm shift, inner work is going through a paradigm shift. My relationship to my sense of who I am, my being, is going through a whole reordering, right? And conventional tell me your story over and over and over again psychotherapy is being superseded by far more potent techniques where people leave after 3 sessions and they're like, oh my God, that felt like 5 years of therapy, right? The psychotechnologies are advancing as rapidly as the diagnostic tech on the body side. And so, can we listen to the signal of healing in all the noise, identify those world-class performers, celebrate them, bring them to the fore and say, my God, those tools that you wield are so much more potent than the stuff that we're all kind of used to using. Yeah. And in all 4 quadrants, that is happening. In the relationship quadrant as well. There are people that are true luminaries and helping us do something that certainly no one in my generation ever grew up having language around, which is that interpersonal human relationships, one of the keys is to understand not how to prevent a rupture, but rather how to accomplish a good repair. Mm-hmm. So the goal isn't to never have a fight or never have an argument. The goal is to understand how we fully repair our relationship after that happened. Right. And so all of this stuff is sort of coming online. And then, of course, our relationship with nature. I mean, we have the possibility, the opportunity to celebrate. And my God, is this not I think this is the most essential thing of all, to celebrate our brothers and sisters in regenerative agriculture. Mm-hmm. I mean, those who are toiling to help heal the soil and the water and the air. Yeah. I mean, that's where the deep bow, right, needs to start. And so can we assemble within our own communities the world-class performers in reconnecting to our body to offset acute illness, chronic disease, and chronic pain, health span, lifespan, all that stuff, and the world-class performers in reconnecting to our selfhood, to our true nature, to our essence as human beings, which is both the fact that we are divine beings that also have a shadow. Mm-hmm. So spending time in the higher states of consciousness exclusively without going into the darkness and doing the shadow work, we have a beautiful word for that. It's called spiritual bypassing. That's not enough. That's not whole humanness, right? So there's an architecture here as well. And as we're creating this framework for what it means to be a whole human, we just have to be clear with our terms and again, assemble those people. And so at Cloud, it's not just me doing everything for everyone all at once.
Right.
It's saying at this moment, it seems that you need to be reconnected to the part of you that is pure light.
Yeah.
And here are the best tools that I know to do that. And that may not be you and I doing sessions together, but I think you should go do 3 or 4 sessions with Wesley Fouquet, right? Or Steve March, or Dick Schwartz, or any number of people that are, again, the luminaries in these fields. So sorry for a very long-winded answer.
No, it's really what I was leading into, which is another difference of Cloud in comparison to others, right? I speak to many friends, many colleagues. I talk to a lot of other people and they say, oh, yeah, I have a DPC doc, or I have a concierge doctor. I have a great relationship with them. It's just not the same, right? What you've built and curated is very unique, yet not so unique that it can't be replicated in every semi-major metropolitan area in the entire United States. These people that you've curated that I've worked with personally are not the only ones in the world, right? They can be found in many other areas, but they're all in their own silos. They're all trying to do their own thing and get their own client base and do really good work. And there's no hub in the middle of that. And I think you've become the hub for that in the community, which is then had this multiplicative effect on all of those other individuals and on the patients, right? I mean, it is a part that I definitely do not take for granted as a member of Cloud Medical, that I can come in and say, hey, we were skiing together and my knee is out of whack. Who do we have that's going to get this in repair a whole lot faster than me going to conventional physical therapy, which is going to take me 6 months before I'm back, right? And it's just, we have it. Right? You've got the guy. You've got the guy on the mental and emotional side. You've got the people if I need a better dentist, right? All of those elements, even with vision, all of those pieces have come together around this hub of primary care. Functionally informed primary care with the lens of we don't have to be everything to everybody, but we can curate groups of people that are well vetted and have done great work at an accelerated rate to really blend this out. And I think that model is just so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, first, I think it's expanding the scope of primary care. I think most people who go to work for the big hospital systems and the insurance-based practices are pigeonholed into a very, very minimalistic approach to what they actually spent 7 years or 8 years training to do, even just on the biology side, never mind those other 3 quadrants. And so there's so much that we can do in primary care with needle-based therapies, for instance. You mentioned your knee. We do PRP injections at Cloud. The going rate in our community for those is close to $1,000 a shot. And we bought the kits, we bought the centrifuges, we got it all. And we're like, we can do it for $300. We can do complicated needle-based injections of neuromuscular Botox in the head and the neck and the shoulders for a fraction of the cost that most clinicians charge because of our recurrent revenue model. The engine of our revenue comes from the memberships. So we don't have to nickel and dime people on some of these other extraneous things, which are incredibly powerful for the right person.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs Botox. Not everybody needs PRP, but for those who would benefit, it's incredible. And then, and that just only expands when we bring in all of these other affiliates. What I'm so excited about in terms of affiliates, partners, collaborators, colleagues are the people that resonate with the vibrational frequency of what we've been talking about this whole time, which is fundamentally salutogenesis. It's Dr. Bryce Applebaum who says, I'm your eye doctor, but not the kind that you go to, fix all of the problems, but the person that can prevent those problems in the first place. Mm-hmm. And the work that he's doing to optimize cognitive function that comes from eye strain because of all of our damn screens and how that leads to, premature need for glasses and vision correction. Vision correction is great. Thank God for glasses, right? That's amazing. Yeah. But I'm talking about people that can say, I'm here to help you not need those for a much longer time. And by the way, there's going to be tremendous neuroplasticity benefits to your brain if we do it this way. I'm talking about dentists like Dr. Alessia Bergen and Dr. Carmen Burke and people in our community, Andrea Mustian, whose goal is to, for sure, we can drill your tooth out and put the root canal in and put the, fill the cavity. But our goal is to prevent you from needing that in the first place. So when we're building this network, this robust network of services that isn't there to harm or hurt or destroy or attack the existing structure, because that's imploding of its own right.
Right.
We're here to build the alternative universe, the sort of parallel path, replete with a massively more value, like higher value, like bang for the buck, like less cost for what you're getting, focused on doing all of the things that we've normally done, whether that's primary care or vision or dental or psychotherapy, from the perspective of we're here to actually offset the need for the downstream services that we've become dependent upon because nobody ever told us how to do the thing in the first place to prevent those things from happening. And that's what we're trying to say. That's the new primary care. Yeah. The new primary care is really a completely resurrected connotation for the word prevention. It's not just colonoscopies and pap smears. Prevention has to do with, offsetting all of these health problems to begin with by becoming anti-fragile in all four quadrants. Yep. I'm anti-fragile in my body. I'm anti-fragile in my sense of who I am so that I can handle psycho-emotional stressors as they come, and they will in our lives as human beings. I'm anti-fragile in my relationships. So my partner and I can handle discord and conflict and then learn how to repair. I'm anti-fragile in my relationship to nature so that I'm not just degrading it. I'm actually participating to the best of my ability, imperfectly, baby steps. But I'm starting to move in the direction of stewardship. And so I think this is, again, the big vision and the big opportunity that lies for all of us who are willing to think on the scale, right?
Yeah. In order to do that, and you bring up somebody like Bryce Applebaum, and I think he's a very interesting individual in this case, because it's functional vision is something that is trailing quite a bit behind functional medicine for the body and even functional dentistry, right? It was surprising to me to hear that was even a possibility. And so he has had to take a track, like you and many others, outside of the incentives of the current commercial insurance and medical system, right? And when you do that, you need to align with the incentives of the human, right? And align with the incentives of the person in front of you. I think about incentives a lot because I think they drive behavior significantly. And in your case with this, there's still a component of this where it is not natural for most people to wake up and say, well, wait a second, I'm already paying for insurance. Why should I also pay for this out-of-pocket cash primary care membership? Or why should I pay for an x-ray out of my own pocket or an MRI or these other things? It's been ingrained in our heads for so long that is what the system is here for. And until you understand that those incentives are completely misaligned with health, it's hard to get a grasp on that. And so there's another element to this, which is you don't get to just practice medicine all day long and have someone else write you a paycheck, right? You don't get to practice this way inside of other establishments. You have to go out on your own to do this. And you've been doing that for quite some time. But there are other complications there. There is a business element to it. So you run a business. You've run a very successful business for quite some time. And that is a necessary product of this whole establishment of how do I provide the best care for my patients. It's also figuring out how do I run the most sustainable business so that I'm not fighting fires all the time and can spend more time with my patients. How's that evolved for you over the time since you have started and went out on your own in the first place?
I can't say we're not fighting fires from time to time. I think the first step is to say, who do you want to work for? That's the big question. Do you want to work for your patients? Do you want to work on behalf of are you in service? Are you in devotion to the person in front of you in the exam room? And if so, then they should be the one paying you. That's the cleanest thing, because then there's no third party interference. In the old paradigm, in primary care, fee for service, the number of steps that it takes to go from I'm generating this bill for this service that I'm going to charge you for, by the time that bill comes or the payment comes into the bank account of the physician, there are 27 steps in that chain, right? And full of third parties and clearinghouses and scrubbers and entities that most people have never even heard of. And quite frankly, I don't want them to, right? Because it's a colossal catastrophe of waste. We waste something like $300 million per day. $300 million per day, I believe, is the right number on bureaucratic administrative waste in this country. So the first question is, who do you work for? Direct primary care is this cleanest, simplest way to say, I work for you. And this is what it costs. It's a cup of coffee per day. And there's no one that's going to try to interfere with us and make us ask questions like, Mother, may I? I would like to do this for the patient. I would like to do this for you, Seth. I'd like to order this. It's like, well, we have to ask, Mother over here. We have to ask the prior authorizers. We have to get a pre-approval for all of these things. And so that's what's going away, particularly with the policies that enable us to use the same advantages that the health insurance industry has had for decades, using pre-tax dollars to pay for these particular tests. I need a microbiome test. Well, that's not covered. We don't even know what a microbiome is. It's like, no, we know what it is. We have excellent diagnostic tools to help us unpack that. But Blue Cross or Cigna or Aetna is probably not going to cover that for you. through these new channels, we can do that. And so on and so forth. So back to your question about our journey. I mean, it's been a circuitous journey of unshackling ourselves from that arrangement, the fee-for-service arrangement. We did not do it overnight. Mm-hmm. We did it through as careful and as thoughtful a methodology as we could that took several years, during which we went from pure fee-for-service to a hybrid model where we invited people. We told them, hey, this is an alternative. And the early adopters of that were, of the three payers in America, we only have three payers, mm-hmm. or three types of health insurance consumers. We have people that work for IBM, big corporations. Mm-hmm. We have people that are on Medicaid or Medicare or the VA system. Mm-hmm. And we have people that work for small businesses or independent contractors that are kind of trying to fight through this quagmire on their own and oftentimes get the least advantageous costs. Right. So the small businesses are the ones that are suffering the most, and they were the early adopters of our model. Small businesses and independent contractors. And we said, hey, we can offer this for you. And oh, by the way, since you do need a catastrophic plan also to bundle with your primary care plan, we can do the primary care, but we can't do brain surgery and liver transplants and things like that. That's where we began to use the health share model. Right. And we found that our model for primary care and urgent care plus a dovetailed health share, like Sedera, for instance, mm-hmm. cost about 50% of the cheapest, crappiest, stingiest Kaiser plan out there for a family of four. So when we began, the numbers were something like $1,500 for a family of four for the Kaiser plan and around $800 for the family for this blended plan. Eventually, more and more people signed up. Once we met a threshold number, we wrote a very, very kind letter to all of the remaining fee-for-service patients. And we said we were really hoping that many of you join this new way. We really feel that this is the future that we want to move into, and we would love for you to be there with us. And some of them signed up and others didn't. And, the rest is history. And now we're in the mode where we're leveraging the wisdom and the insight of your company, FPC, and your mentorship and all of the resources available to us through that to take what we've done, which was pretty mom and pop level, pretty small scale, and fortify the operational infrastructure so that it's solid enough to build upon and allow us to expand and scale. And right now we're very much in growth mode. We're very much in hiring mode. Yeah. We're hiring pretty much every role, whether it's medical assistants, practice managers, and most importantly of all, we're hiring physicians that see things from similar perspectives and points of view and want to play a role and want to participate and want to join our cause and our team in this primary care renaissance.
Yeah. And I can't think of a better place for a primary care physician who is aligned to possibly work. I mean, I know the inner workings of your practice at a very intimate level from a patient side, but also from a mentorship and coaching side. Working directly with your daughter Ava has been just such a beautiful opportunity to mentor somebody who is so talented and also has, such a huge room to grow and build with the practice has been really, really cool. But the entire staff there and just the ethos of Cloud has been really amazing. And so if you are listening to this and you're thinking about employment somewhere, I cannot recommend higher getting in touch with you and taking a look at what it would look like to work at Cloud Medical.
Yeah, no, we're totally on a mission. We feel that we're on a part of a movement that's, it feels like it's sort of FPC really is kind of a centerpiece, a key pillar of all these practices that are starting to really understand like what immense opportunity and potential is at hand here. And so I just want to, on behalf of myself and Ava and our whole team, just thank you for the mentorship that you've provided, and I know we'll continue to do, and we're going to do great things together.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great run so far, and there's many more to come. Well, Dr. T, this has been just an incredible conversation. I know the listeners are mind blown right now. I love being able to say, my doctor sounds like this. These are the things that we get to talk about in and outside of appointments. And I just love every conversation we get to have together. I'll look forward to a part 2 as well, where we can continue to talk about the evolution of cloud medical, and really what I see expanding is the cloud way across multiple different entities in the future. So for those of you who have listened in, this has been the Freedom RX podcast. We would greatly appreciate if you would subscribe. There is a button below on whatever one of the areas you are listening to this, whether that is on YouTube and you're watching the video of us, or whether you're tuning in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other podcast platforms. We have many different offerings and materials for you to take advantage of figuring out, how do I create a practice like Cloud Medical? How do I get hired by Cloud Medical? Or if I have a existing practice and just want to figure out a better, more sustainable business model, better way of hiring, staffing, managing operations, et cetera, it's what we do here at Freedom Practice Coaching. And we are very honored and lucky to have incredible clients like Dr. David Tusek and Cloud Medical and many others that we spoke about today. So Dr. T, again, thank you.
I can't not pitch and mention your scalability assessment tool, which I encourage anyone and everyone to do, no matter what stage you are in the growth of your practice. You could be just starting out or, be many, many years in, is a refinement of taking the vital signs, taking the pulse and the temperature of where you are and where you need to go. So, that's just a perfect place for anyone interested in learning about FPC to start.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
For sure. Thank you. This was a great chat. Enjoyed it, and look forward to the next time.
I do too. Thanks.